Hi, my name's Vicki Stanley, and this is my first broadcast of It's About Time, and it is regarding Time magazine. I get the Time magazine every week, and I have found it to be one of the most informative pieces of print literature that I could have to tell me about what's going on in the world. And I'd like to share some of the information in it with you. One of the first things that always intrigues me is the page that tells us about quotes from different people. Angela Merkel, the German Chancellor of Germany, is concerned about the refugee crisis, and her comments said, "Every person who comes is a human being and has the right to be treated as such." There's so many human rights being violated all over the world, and people are flooding into countries. And it's sad that there's places where they're overrun and can hardly help the people. And one of the things that got to me about this was that how many people try to even get into America. And I know we have an immigration crisis and it needs to be dealt with, but no one's running away from America. We have a great country. And as I see all of these refugees running from persecution by their own people, by their own leaders, it's sad, but it's also a wake-up call to America to realize that we need to quit complaining about ourselves because we're a great nation and we don't have people aren't coming and bombing us. We're not bombing. Our leaders aren't bombing us. We're in a great place. This is another thing that really interested me about Hillary Clinton. There's been so much said about the emails, the emails, the emails. Security, security. Spock from Star Trek would have said the information that's coming across from the media is illogical. Hillary Clinton is one of the most intelligent women I have ever not met, but wish I could. How could a smart woman who has accomplished so much in her life and is still accomplishing so much in her life and probably will be the next president, the first woman president of the United States ever, how could someone with that type of intelligence do the things that these people are accusing her of? She's too smart for that. So Americans need to think about what they're being told and weigh the logic of it. Brazil is turning against its president. See if I can get that on there. There's been so much corruption that she's been dissolved of, or devolved of, or whatever the word is. I think it's kind of a thing where, once again, people looked into the situations and proved her innocent of all charges, and yet there's still people trying to oust her from the presidency. But there's no one else to fill her boots. So I stand behind her for now and hope she can figure out what to do. There have been bombings in Thailand. That's nothing new for the news. Bombings are happening everywhere. We found at 9/11, at the Boston Marathon, we found out that America is not immune to bombings. Terrorists have become something that America and the whole world has to deal with. And it's sad because the reasons for so many of the reasons for so many of these terrorists to do the things that they do are often based on religion. And there is no religion that I've ever studied, and not in college, which I'm 60 years old and I'm in my last year of college. There's no religion I have even studied that promotes violence. This is something that we need to think about too, and Spock would say is illogical. I'm not a Trekkie fan, so don't read into that. It's just that I love Spock, and I love the fact that he was very logical, and I think that sometimes we as Americans and other people are not. The man on the left died just recently. His name was Julian Bond. He was a great civil rights leader who stood with Martin Luther King Jr. to bring civil rights to America, especially the blacks. And we need civil rights for women, for gays, lesbians, the LGBT, I think I got that right, community, for blacks, whites, Muslims, Jews. It doesn't matter. Everyone should be equal under the law, and this is something that we all need to support, because we never know when it's going to be us that the majority comes after. There's a problem with peer-reviewed material. We're finding out that some of it has been faked. In college, one of the most important things we were told early on was to, when we referenced information, it needed to be peer-reviewed. It needed to be something was substantive, that could be backed by research, and it's concern that many thousands of articles and stuff have been found to be not peer-reviewed. They have been faked, and there's research going on to get to the depths of that. But it makes you wonder if anything you ever hear is true. I'm kind of one of those people that I just don't believe anybody unless I have the facts. And then, of course, there's a picture of Kepler 186f. It's the planet that looks so much like Earth and is a possibility in the future to have a place for more of the world to move to. Maybe we'll get there and find people there, and they'll say, hey, we don't need you. Where Black Lives Matter goes from here. First, let me say that Black Lives Matter. I've been very concerned ever since the Ferguson shooting, but even before that. There are always two sides to a story, and there are good and bad people on both sides of the fence. But one of the things we have to realize is that there are, it's a fact, men drawn to the policeman field of work that are violent and see that as a source of being able to be proud and forceful towards other people. I've experienced that in my own life through a family member, and I have seen it happen in other situations where people were involved in situations where I actually saw policemen trying to intimidate and provoke them into a fight. And I believe that is not what policemen should be doing. I know that there are thousands of police officers who have good hearts and are trying to do the right thing, and many of them have died for that. But I also believe that the few who are killing these people and trying to justify it are not on the right side of the law themselves and should not be let go. They should be held accountable for the things that they do. The police officers of this country should set the example. When I was a child, we were told to trust policemen. I no longer trust policemen. I've had a personal incident with one, and, well, really, actually on more than one occasion. And I actually had a bad situation with a sitting judge, whom, after I had pressed charges against, after 11 years and got the courage to do so, he quit. So don't ever give up on pursuing justice, even if it's the people who are in the justice business that you have to take issue with. People are saying that the movement, Black Lives Matter, is not centralized. This is my words to you. no matter who you are. There is a central movement, and it's called the Civil Rights Movement. Let's stand behind it, because black lives matter. And it's important that we as white people realize that. So many people I have heard make comments saying they should stop whining, they should stop doing this, they should stop doing that. I know that I did not hurt black people, but I know that members of my family have. And I also know that I do my best to treat all people with respect, whether they're of my religion or not, my color or race or not. But I also know that there are people in my life that I'm acquainted with who do not feel that way. It's up to us, if we want to centralize this movement, it's to just reach out through every avenue that we can, just saying Black Lives Matter, and make it happen. Everybody knows who that is. Never liked him much. Don't think he'll be president. I think Hillary Clinton should be the first president, the first woman president of the United States. She's got my vote. She doesn't have to earn it. She already has it. She earned it a long time ago. But one of the things that I like about Donald Trump is his hat and his trademark, which says, "Make America Great Again." We need to be great again. I believe we've lost that. And it's not Obama's fault. And those who try to blame Obama, again, are illogical. Because the facts bear out that this trouble that we have came upon us long before he took office. I also know that Donald Trump in this magazine, and I'm not sure where it is, said that he does know a lot of the evil rich men that are in this country and in this world, but especially this country. He knows who they are, and he thinks that they need to be held accountable for the tax evasion that they continually push upon this country, which means that you and I have to pay more. This man, if I pronounce his name right, is Archbishop Charles Chaput of Philadelphia, who will be accompanying the Pope, Pope Francis, when he visits in September in America. And his job has been to clean up the sexual abuse cases that have plagued the Catholic Church for a very long time. As a former child abuse victim myself, I realize that so many people have been hurt, and it was time for someone to speak up for these children. It was time that justice was done. It amazes me that there is no statute of limitation for murder. But when a child is hurt in this way, they are subject sometimes to 40 and 50 years of hurt before they can finally find healing. And I believe that something should change. The statute of limitation for rape or incest is so small, and yet the sentence that the person places upon that child or person goes long beyond the person who died. It's a lifelong sentence. But about Pope Francis, I'm not Catholic, but I believe he's one of the most righteous Christian men who walks the face of the earth. And that's not a prideful thing. I love the man, and I don't even know him personally. But from what I have seen of his actions and his ability to communicate to people and what he's willing to say in spite of the backlash from others, even within his own denomination, I believe the man is on the right track, and I believe we need to listen to him. China. This says the China decade. China has almost, well, they have outpaced us in gross national product. But what they are not doing is cleaning up their air, and there's 4,400 Chinese people every day that die because of pollution. This is unacceptable. Even in a country of billions of people, those are real lives, real families, and their country is doing nothing about it. And America, Obama, and other people in NATO and other places, I'm not sure who controls that, but the UN possibly, they're trying to get China to change this because people matter. They have a global influence and it's expanding, but they need to clean up their air. They are earning more and more money at the expense of their people. We have found a strange new way to find criminals, and it's bacteria. Bacteria has a unique signature to each individual and each family. And what's amazing to me is that scientists are finding one more way to be able to track criminals that break into your home, violate you personally, or participate in any other crime. We no longer have just fingerprints. DNA was a great thing that came upon our world, and now we are in the stages of bacterial signatures that will help us solve crimes even more effectively. You could find all of this in Time magazine every week. And print journalism has been going down. I used to work for newspaper and I loved it. I cannot get away from reading a newspaper or a magazine because unlike the internet, which is great, don't get me wrong, I'm speaking to you over the internet right now. I like having something in my hand. I like having something that I can mark and refer to later on. Something that will come to my mind that I can go back to a box and find that Time magazine and be able to share with somebody what I read at a certain time. I'm even able to use it sometimes in references to my schoolwork. Now there's a lot of information they touch on from music and books and movies. These are things that do not usually interest me, although there is a movie called Grandma starring Lily Tomlin that's coming out, and she is one of my all-time favorites, love her to death, and I'm sure that one would be well worth seeing. There's also a page about love it and leave it. I am sure that you would probably find at least one thing on that page that you would want to love or leave. Silly things, One of the last articles is about Hollywood's obsession with looks and how much people look the same as they did 20 years ago or 30 years ago. They're not aging with us. It's kind of a crisis. I don't think that people should try to alter their looks. I think that they should look the way they are and find the parts that, resemble them. Why should an old woman have to be made to look young, or a young woman have to be made to look old, when there's a vast amount of Hollywood stars that could be chosen from that could look the part wonderfully? I think it's silly. I'm 60 years old and I don't mind looking 60. What's funny is my grandchildren, when I showed them a picture of what I look like at 20 years old, they actually laughed at me. But the thing is, we all looked lovely when we were young. But it's okay to get old. And if you're old, just be healthy. That'll be more important than how you look. That about wraps it up for my first attempt at sharing with you It's About Time. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and I look forward to next week's copy. This is August 31st, 2015, copy of Time. Time is not paying me to do this. I'm doing it because I love the magazine, and I love talking about what's in it. I hope you enjoyed hearing it, and I hope I can present more interesting facts to you next week. See you then. Bye.